to a book, endured 3 bitter years, and finally managed to survive until the grand finale. The male lead holds great power, the female lead marries in splendor, and the villain is demoted and has his property confiscated. With the 10 taels of silver I painstakingly saved, I bought the villain Rong-Chi from the human trafficker, seeing me grinning from ear to ear. Rong-Chi's heart was as dead as ashes. Do whatever you want, I laughed even more wildly. Damn it, it's finally my turn to strike it rich. I brought Rong-Chi back to my dilapidated thatched hut and helped him lie down on my wooden plank bed. Though he was down and out, his cold, sinister gaze still sent chills down one's spine. There was also a hint of undisguised disdain. Not only did he disdain me, but he also despised my creaky bed. Fortunately, he was severely injured. Unable to defeat me or escape, I paid no mind and went straight to tugging at his collar. Probably didn't expect me to be so shameless, doing such morally depraved things to him in broad daylight. His indifferent expression finally softened a bit. As I tore open his collar, he closed his eyes in anger and despair. Do whatever you want. He seemed somewhat resigned to his fate. I suddenly remembered, today is the day the male and female leads are getting married. While the leads are enjoying their wedding night, he has fallen so low and is being humiliated. It makes me feel a bit sad for him just thinking about it. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. He opened his eyes, his narrow phoenix-like gaze sharp and shifting, then sighed. Miss, my name is Yu Jiwei. I introduced myself. Miss Yu, I know there are many young ladies in Bianjing who admire me. Before he could finish, he gasped sharply. As he spoke, I couldn't wait to peel off his outer garment. The fabric was stuck to his skin and dried blood scabs, and when I undid it, I accidentally brushed against the wound, making his eyelashes flutter in pain. Truly worthy of being the villain, the visual centerpiece of the story. Even frowning looks this good, but unfortunately, I've been dealt a rough hand in this life, born a refugee, drifting from place to place. After so many years of poverty, there was no room for men in my eyes, only a burning desire to get rich. I caressed the silk coat in my hand, its texture delicate, its craftsmanship exquisite. Though stained with blood, once cleaned, it should still fetch some money. Seeing how I couldn't put his coat down, Rong-Chi clenched his fists and warned, don't indulge in wishful thinking. You're not even comparable to the lowliest maid by my side. Even if you could have my body, you would never win my heart. I smiled. Your heart? I've never wanted such a useless thing. Rong-Chi was taken aback. So furious he nearly spat blood. In the book, he came from a noble family, with his father and brothers having died on the battlefield. He was stubborn and aloof, hopelessly in love with the female lead. He had more money than he could spend in several lifetimes, but because he repeatedly provoked Xie Yunju, who had the protagonist's halo, he ended up meeting a tragic fate. I generously comforted him. It's all right. Losing a relationship isn't as important as losing a job. Oh, sorry. I forgot you've been demoted to a commoner and your home has been confiscated. Rong-Chi's face turned even darker, and he was so angry he wanted to jump up and hit me. Unfortunately, he was too badly injured and couldn't even turn over smoothly. He turned his face away, completely unwilling to pay any attention to me. I turned his face to look into his eyes and asked with utmost sincerity, was everything confiscated clean during the raid? Any secret vaults or hidden chambers? Rong-Chi now looks at me as if I were a beast. In his eyes, I spent only 10 taels of silver not just to have him, but to take his money too. It's simply alarmist. Seeing that he wouldn't speak, my fingers wandered to his neck, pressing maliciously against his Adam's apple. I said in a fierce tone, spit it out quickly, or I'll sell you into a brothel. Rong-Chi's ears turned red, but his face remained expressionless. How do you think I got these injuries on my body? Do you think your methods are more cunning than the torturers in prison? I had a feeling it would be like this. I tentatively asked, then where is your family's ancestral grave? Ancient people loved to include burial goods. Just dig up the grave of any high-ranking official or noble, and you'd find plenty of treasures. For a family of officials like Rong-Chi's, the treasures inside would probably be enough to last me 8 lifetimes. Rong-Chi looked at me as if I were a moral vacuum. His heart sank a little, and he continued with a deadpan expression, according to the current laws, those who dig up ancestral graves face punishments ranging from heavy flogging to execution. I remained unrepentant. What if it's my own family's grave? You mean, you want me to dig up my own father's grave? Rong-chi enunciated each word slowly, every syllable dripping with danger. If he had a sword in his hand right now, he would have already run me through. When the villain gets angry, he can indeed randomly scare a transmigrator to death. I shrank back and finally asked, according to the law, do the things you once gave to others need to be confiscated during a house raid? What's given to others belongs to them. If she gives it back to you then it's mine. I finally felt relieved. In the 3 years since I transmigrated into this book, I hadn't been without my attempts to find ways to make money. In this era of strict social hierarchy and male dominance, it is harder for a woman to earn money than to climb to the sky. The 10 taels of silver saved through frugal living were meant for this very moment, to purchase the antagonist Rong-chi, though his family was disgraced and their assets seized. During his years as a devoted follower, he gifted the female lead countless treasures. Can gifts given with the intention of romance truly be called gifts? Can those things even be considered the female lead's possessions? Unless Shun Shuiying is willing to marry Rong-chi today, she must return every single one of them to me. Rong-chi is mine, so his money is naturally my money as well. Thinking of that priceless ancient zither, the rare and exquisite jade, the invaluable paintings, and the countless sets of jewelry, damn it. After 3 years in this transmigrated novel, I'm finally about to strike it rich. Thinking of this, I found Rong-chi even more pleasing to the eye. Even though he wore a gloomy expression that seemed like he wanted to kill me, I still carefully fed him a bowl of thin porridge. I fetched water to clean his face and tied up his hair neatly again. I washed his outer garment clean, dried it over the charcoal fire, and dressed him in it. The original book described him as handsome and tall. And indeed, after tidying him up, he exuded the noble aura unique to the powerful and wealthy. I just love the flawless appearance of rich people like this. Seeing me struggle to move him onto the wheelbarrow, Rong-chi finally couldn't help but ask, what exactly are you trying to do? Are you really willing to let Shun Shuiying marry Xie Yunju today? I eagerly said, I'll take you to crash the wedding. No, Rong-chi's fingers gripped the edge of the bed tightly. Perhaps unwilling to let the male and female leads see him in such a wretched state, ignoring his resistance, I pried his fingers open one by one, slender fingers with distinct knuckles, a thin callus at the base of the thumb. It was a pair of hands, beautiful and well-shaped. Accustomed to wielding blades and swords over the years, it suddenly occurred to me, if he ever recovers, would he try to kill me? But it doesn't matter, once I get the money, I'll strike first. I thought to myself while gently persuading, you saved her 3 times. Without you, she would have died long ago. You gave her ancient zithers, famous paintings, rare treasures, and exotic jewels. Without you, how could she, a destitute common-born daughter, have become the most noble lady in Bianjing City? You merely injured Xie Yunju during the trial, yet you were accused of bending the law for personal gain out of admiration for Shun Shuiying. Don't you feel wronged? Today, Big Sister will take you back to seek justice. Before I could finish my words, a sharp pain shot through my knee, and I stumbled forward, collapsing onto Rong-chi. The next second, his fingers closed around my throat, his tone icy. How do you know all this so clearly? Who exactly are you? The air grew unnervingly still. Once again, I felt the oppressive aura of the villain from the book. But I wasn't panicked. Not only was I not panicked, I was quite indignant. Who am I? 3 years ago during the flood, Xie Yunzhou's disaster relief efforts were praised as a beautiful story. I was one of the victims he helped. Rong-chi seemed somewhat disappointed and sneered. So you're here for him too? But that idiot mixed sand into the disaster relief grain, and so much of it too. Not only did I not get enough to eat, but I also got gastroenteritis from it. I almost died because I had no money for medical treatment. My face was full of anger. And a flicker of surprise passed through Rong-chi's eyes as his fingers, which had been pressing against my neck, loosened slightly. I remember in the book, Rong-chi opposed mixing sand into the disaster relief grain but was used as a negative example of being out of touch with the people's suffering, and was heavily mocked by Xie Yunju. As satisfying as it was to read about it in the book, drinking that disaster relief porridge was just as miserable. The victims, already physically weak, died more from drinking sand porridge and falling ill than from being drowned in the flood. But the lives of the lowly are as worthless as grass. Who would care? 2 years ago, when Shen Shuiying was seriously ill, you searched everywhere for medicine and gave her 1,000-year-old ginseng, Rong Qi said indifferently. Those are just worldly possessions, not worth mentioning. With a blank expression and a cold tone, I said, right, you're so noble. I spent half a year in the mountains, bitten by mosquitoes, insects, and rodents, just to dig up this ginseng. When I delivered it to the Shun residence, I found out she wasn't seriously ill at all. She'd had a miscarriage. Not only did I lose the money, but I almost got killed too. It's my own fault for running my mouth. I thought the male and female leads were good people, so I kindly warned her that such a strong tonic might cause a hemorrhage. That damn male lead, upon hearing it, immediately sent people to hunt me down. Fortunately, I managed to escape by disguising myself as a man, changing into women's clothing, and scattering the money Rong Qi gave me for buying ginseng in the bustling market, causing a scramble that barely allowed me to slip away. Rong Qi's face was full of shock, his breath unsteady. Impossible. Are you saying Shuiying and Xie Yunju? Long ago, I leaned over Rong Qi, watching his disbelief up close. A smile slowly curled at the corner of my lips as I looked at him with mischief. Yes, yes. Right after her birthday banquet, while you stood outside her chamber receiving an ancient zither from her maid, she was in her room with him. TSK. Rong Qi's face instantly turned deathly pale, and his fingers went limp as they loosened their grip. It seems even the villain can't stand being deceived and toyed with. He still hasn't fallen into darkness thoroughly enough. If only he had stabbed the male lead to death back in the prison back then, wouldn't all this trouble be avoided now? Sigh. I'll teach him how to be a proper villain properly later. I jumped off the ground, stepping a bit farther away from Rong Qi, looking at him with sympathy. Is he truly heinous beyond redemption? Indeed, his methods are ruthless, but as the chief of the Dali Temple, he is merely fulfilling his duties in his position. It's just that in this book, the male and female leads have such strong plot armor that even when they do things the world cannot tolerate, they never face punishment. Now that the book has reached its conclusion, their protagonist halo will also fade away. I pressed Rong Qi onto the wheelbarrow and pushed him toward the female lead's residence. Calculating the time, Xie Yunju should be about to fetch his bride by now. The wedding of the capital's most esteemed lady and the newly appointed chief of the Dali Temple was a widely celebrated affair. Thus, the streets were bustling with excitement, as everyone eagerly awaited Shen Shuiying's bridal procession. Adorned in red and stretching for miles, only Rong Qi, with his eyes slightly closed and an empty expression, looked as if he were half dead. Ah, never mind, I said kindly, don't be sad. When we get those gifts back, I'll convert them to cash and give you half. Rong Qi ignored me. He was no longer the illustrious Lord Rong of the past, now crippled and destitute, with no one to turn to. He must not have wanted to appear before his former colleagues in such a state. I kindly covered his face with a cloth. Unexpectedly, as soon as we reached the entrance of the Shun residence, a servant stopped us. Get out, get out. On such an auspicious day, why are you pushing a dead man here to bring bad luck? Watching Xie Yunju, surrounded by a crowd, lead Shen Shuiying out in her phoenix crown and ceremonial robes, they were about to step into the bridal sedan. In desperation, I shouted, Shen Shuiying, do you really not love Rong Qi anymore? For a moment, the air stood still, the sound of gongs and drums ceased, smiles froze on everyone's faces, and all eyes turned toward me in astonishment. Everyone knows Rong Qi admires the eldest daughter of the Shen family. He even disregarded his own status and, out of jealousy toward his romantic rival, inflicted severe punishment on Xie Yunju when the latter was wrongfully imprisoned. As the minister of the Court of Judicial Review, he had investigated hundreds of cases, acted decisively, and made countless enemies. After being impeached and having his property confiscated over this incident, many secretly clapped their hands in satisfaction. Now that he has nothing left, he dares to disrupt the wedding. How dare he claim that the young lady of the Shun family once loved him? If she doesn't love him now, doesn't that mean she once did? There's tea. The guests who had come to offer congratulations all gathered around. Even Xie Yunju strode over and bowed. Miss, today is my joyous occasion. May I ask what relation you are to Rong Qi? Whatever your identity may be, You are welcome to come in and share a cup of celebratory wine. But the auspicious hour has arrived, please do not cause a scene and breach etiquette. No wonder he's the male lead, so modest and polite, and his words are so pleasant to hear. I also smiled gently and said, I am Rong Chi's wife, here today to welcome Miss Shen into our family on behalf of my husband. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was stunned, and even Xie Yunzhou's expression changed. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Rong Chi lying on the wheelbarrow behind me. Quietly pulling the cloth over his face a little higher, he died even more thoroughly in social disgrace. He cares about face, unlike me, who only cares about money. At this moment, Shen Shuiying also walked over with the support of her maid, her voice hesitant beneath the red veil. Someone like Rong Chi actually got married too. Oh, what do you mean by someone like him? His Majesty only ordered the confiscation of the family property and their demotion, but did not say to strip Rong Chi of his martial arts, and even sold him into slavery. I heard the maid beside her whisper, Miss, I saw with my own eyes that it was a lecherous man with a penchant for male companions who bought Rong Chi. He's now a cripple, how could he possibly marry? It was indeed the handiwork of the male and female leads, and that lecherous man with a penchant for male companions she spoke of is none other than me. When I'm out and about, I always disguise myself as an unattractive man. I never expected my skills to be so convincing that I left such an impression on them. Shen Shuiying nervously grasped Xie Yunzhou's hand, feigning composure as she said, if Rong Chi has truly taken a wife, I would naturally offer my congratulations. But you have no proof, miss. Does that matter? I smiled sincerely. Do you really not love Rong Chi anymore? Shen Shuiying said sharply. Nonsense. When have I ever loved Rong Chi? How dare you slander the wife of the Grand Minister of State Affairs? Aren't you afraid of being thrown into prison? The crowd murmured among themselves. Back when Rong Chi was in power, Miss Shen never wanted to marry him, let alone now that he's just a commoner. TSK, this girl looks quite pretty, but she dares to slander Miss Shen and disrupt Lord Xie's wedding. I'm afraid she won't live long. I slapped my forehead and looked at Xie Yunzhou. Lord Xie, I almost forgot you're the chief minister of the Dali Temple. Please, judge this emotional debt for us. Xie Yunzhou looked displeased, but in front of the public, he couldn't immediately think of a way to refuse. I said to myself, Miss Shen claims she never loved Rong Chi, which means you two were never in an ambiguous romantic relationship. Shen Shuiying retorted angrily, I have always been a woman of integrity. How could I ever engage in improper relations with a man? Very well. Then may I take a look at Miss Shen's dowry? The dowry list was in the hands of the steward nearby. It had already been read aloud earlier when the bride left her home, and its extravagance had left everyone present in awe and envy. Before the steward could react, I stepped forward and snatched the dowry list from him. My husband once said he gave Miss Shen countless lavish gifts because her family had fallen on hard times, just to add some dignity to her dowry. Before the words had even finished, Shen Shuiying's fingers clenched tightly beneath her wedding dress. Her maid tried to snatch it back, but I hid behind Xie Yunzhou and said, Is Miss Shen afraid? As the chief minister of the Dali Temple, Lord Xie can't even settle a family matter. Perhaps it's time for someone else to take his position. Xie Yunzhou's expression darkened as he dismissed the attendants. Let her speak. Very well. This ancient burnt tail zither was a gift from my husband. And this pair of exquisite jade pendants, symbols of love, I'm sure you've all heard of them. Then there are these precious calligraphy and painting masterpieces, this mermaid tear pearl hairpin, jade branch coral, ice soul emerald hair ornament, these, and these too. With each item I listed, my blood boiled hotter. Money, how much money is this worth? I suspect Rong Chi didn't confiscate much during the house raid. After all, he had given all the good things to Shen Shuiying. The people around also gasped in shock. Among the dowry list, aside from daily necessities, anything of even slight value was actually gifted by Rong Chi, but it truly resembles Rong Chi's style. I had long heard that the Shen family had been struggling these years, and it turns out to be true. I raised my voice. I must ask Miss Shen to come home with me. If you are unwilling, you may return these generous gifts one by one. With that, I turned to Xie Yunzhou. If Lord Xie has any doubts, why not investigate carefully whether these items were purchased by the Shen family or if my husband spent a fortune on them? Xie Yunzhou's face grew darker and darker. With all the colleagues who had come to offer congratulations watching, he was at a loss for words. If these dowries are returned today, wouldn't that make us the laughingstock of the entire capital from now on? But if we don't return them, are we really going to marry Shen Shuiying to Rong Qi as a concubine? For a moment, he even felt a murderous intent. These lowly commoners, causing trouble on his wedding day, they deserve to die. I looked at his cold expression and moved closer to the man in the python robe. Honorable sirs, you must uphold justice for my husband, with these high officials and nobles as witnesses. Xie Yunzhou wouldn't dare take the opportunity to retaliate. Sure enough, a flicker of apprehension passed through Xie Yunzhou's eyes, but the man chuckled lightly. Rong Qi's wife, quite interesting. Shen Shuiying was so furious that in her desperation, she tore off her bridal veil and pointed at me, saying, if Rong Qi is really your husband, why not have him come and confront us face to face? I then took a few steps back, walked over to the wheelbarrow that had been pushed aside by the crowd, and shook Rong Qi on it. Husband, say something. Everyone was shocked once again. Is it really Rong Qi? He wouldn't really want to take the eldest daughter of the Shen family as a concubine, would he? Wishful thinking. But Miss Shen did accept his lavish gift, without any reason. How could she have the nerve to accept something so valuable? Shen Shuiying pointed at the person and shouted, nonsense. When he gave it to me, when did he ever say it was a betrothal gift? Now everyone has a clear understanding. So it was indeed a gift from Rong Qi. How could this be? Then his actions towards Lord Xie were nothing but venting his anger on the adulterer. Rong Qi slowly tore off the tattered cloth from his face. With a look of being half alive and utterly helpless, he said to everyone, pardon my appearance, former colleagues. This humble one is unwell and will not be paying respects to you all. Perhaps it was the authority ingrained in Rong Qi's very bones, but several former colleagues instinctively bowed and said, you jest, Lord Rong. Only after bowing did they realize they had just paid respects to their former superior in front of their current one. Oh no, the workplace is in peril. Rong Qi, you. Shen Shuiying looked at Rong Qi, her eyes brimming with tears. What on earth is going on? How could you marry such a vulgar and rude wife? And besides, aren't we the best of friends? I smiled faintly and said, Miss Shen, you jest. Who gives such extravagant gifts to a mere friend, and who would use a friend's gifts as dowry? Shen Shuiying, flushed with anger and embarrassment, retorted, is the Rong family truly so impoverished that they must rely on reclaiming gifts given to a woman just to survive? Rong Qi twitched the corner of his mouth. Ah, right, that's how it is. Just admitted it so frankly. The once glorious Lord Rong is truly lamentable now. We all serve the court, and the Emperor's favor is unpredictable. No one can guarantee what tomorrow may bring. To be fair, such gifts should indeed be returned. If my daughter dared to accept gifts from a man in private, I'd break her legs. Rong. Shen Shuiying still wanted to protest. Shut up, stop talking. Xie Yunzhou, seeing the pointing and whispering of his court colleagues, felt his blood boiling with rage. He gritted his teeth and said, guards, investigate whether these items were given by Rong Qi. If true, return every single one of them. Returning the gifts is enough. No need to thank me for things like saving your life. I waved my hand magnanimously, while Shen Shuiying stumbled in anger, nearly falling in front of the wedding sedan. The next day, the news that Shen Shuiying, the foremost noble lady of Bianjing, had a dowry of only 10 chests spread throughout the city, and they were all filled with worthless items like beds, bedding, and wedding basins. It was said that on the day of the wedding, Rong Qi, the former chief of the Dali Temple, came to disrupt the ceremony, and Jiang Shuiying immediately returned the gifts he had once given her. Some even claimed that Jiang Shuiying had once had an abortion for Rong Qi. Otherwise, who would give such valuable items to an unrelated woman for no reason at all? Listening to the lively discussions in the inn, I silently finished off an entire crystal sugar pork knuckle and went back to the guest room upstairs to see Rong Qi. I sold most of the things Jiang Shuiying returned for a good price. And life with money is truly wonderful now. I'm staying at the most expensive stargazing tower in Bianjing, eating food prepared by imperial chefs, wearing Suzhou and Hangzhou brocade, and spending money like water every day, splurging wildly. I placed Rong Qi in the most expensive guest room of the stargazing tower and hired a renowned physician to treat his injuries. When I pushed the door open, I was surprised to find someone talking with him. I told you that Miss Shen from the Shen family was no good, but you refused to believe me. If she hadn't slandered you in the palace, accusing you of harassing her repeatedly just to clear Xie Yunju, that freeloader's, name, how could even the Empress Dowager, who dotes on you the most, not say a word in your defense? Alas, I sighed. Rong Qi glanced over at me warily. After receiving treatment, he has improved a great deal, and his half-smiling expression has become even more unsettling. I suspect that in a few days, he might just come at me with a sword. He might even go to apologize to Jiang Shuiying and then compete with the male lead for the married woman. My gaze fell on Rong Qi's friend, who turned out to be the one wearing the python robe at the wedding, watching me with a composed and leisurely air. What are you looking at? Are you and Rong Qi really that close? Then why didn't you save him when he was bought by that creep? Is that really what happened? The man feigned surprise and looked at Rong Qi. Rong Qi closed his eyes and spat out a single word, "Get lost." As the man left, he thoughtfully closed the door, then poked his head back in to call out to me, "Sis-in-law, I'm the owner of this inn. If you need anything, just let me know." Rong Qi gave him a warning look, and he scurried away. I sat by Rong Qi's bedside, hesitating and stammering. How about, just say what's on your mind," he said. As if he could already guess a thing or two, I said with a pained heart, "I sold your things for 5 million taels. I'll give you 2.5 million, since I bought you and saved you. Once you recover, please don't come after me for revenge, okay?" I originally wanted to kill Rong Qi and keep the 5 million taels all to myself, but hiring an assassin would cost money, so forget it. No more pretending, I'm just a coward. Oh, Rong Qi's gaze sharpened, slowly sweeping over my face. His voice unhurried, "Kill me, and enjoy 10 million taels all by yourself. Wouldn't that be better?" He actually knew what I was thinking. Damn it, how could that be? 250 is more than enough to get by. Hee. I chuckled awkwardly, stuffing the thick stack of silver notes into his hand. The corner of his lips lifted almost imperceptibly. "You're quite easy to please. So, what are your plans for the future?" "Of course, I'll buy a small courtyard, hire a couple of loyal servants, enjoy ice to beat the summer heat, gather around the stove to brew tea in winter, go horseback riding in the countryside during my free time, stroll through the markets and spend money, living out the rest of my days in comfort. Too bad you can't order male models in ancient times. However, visiting the pleasure quarters shouldn't be a big problem." Just thinking about it gets me excited. I waved to Rong Qi. "Goodbye, god of wealth." I turned away with a flourish, not noticing the deep, inscrutable look in Rong Qi's eyes behind me. I bought a 2-courtyard house in the busiest area of Bianjing City. I hired a retired military officer to guard the gate and tend to the horses, and bought a diligent maid to help with cleaning and cooking. I sampled all the delicacies and pastries Bianjing had to offer, visited all the scenic spots nearby, and bought plenty of beautiful clothes and jewelry, living a wonderful life for 2 months. Unexpectedly, one night, someone knocked on the door, and when I opened it, it turned out to be Rong Qi. This was the first time I had seen Rong Qi standing. He had largely recovered, dressed in a dark brocade robe, with broad shoulders and long legs, possessing a noble and imposing presence that made it hard to look directly at him. Yet the moment he spoke, my vision went dark. "I'm broke. Take me in." What a mood killer. It was utterly ruining the moment. I suddenly found his face rather detestable, and my voice trembled slightly. 2,500,000 taels, you've spent it all. He looked as if it were the most natural thing in the world. What a spendthrift. An ordinary person couldn't spend 250 taels in a lifetime. I reached out to close the door, but he squeezed in before I could. "Laifu, get him out." I called heartlessly to the doorman, but Laifu, who had always been fiercely loyal, looked at Rong Qi and actually shed tears like a tough man. "Young master, it's all my fault for being useless, for failing to protect the Rong family." "Wait, Laifu, do you see who's paying your salary now?" Rong Qi's brows relaxed as he said slowly, "Don't blame him. He's an old retainer of the Rong family, and a pitiable one at that. Then let me ask you, where did you spend the money? It couldn't be on Shen Shuiying again, could it?" I wore an expression that clearly showed no welcome for love-struck foolishness. Yu Jiwei, have you ever considered that giving so much money to a useless person like me would have consequences that aren't hard to guess? I stood with my hands on my hips, glaring at him angrily. Are you saying I gave you the wrong amount of money? No. He lowered his head and leaned forward. The moonlight fell on his profile, his nose was straight, his eyelashes long and delicate, and his eyes, like dark jade immersed in a cold pool, stared directly at me. You bought me, my money is yours, and so am I. Does that mean you want me to take responsibility? Whatever, given how good-looking he is, it's not like we can't afford to support one more person. It's just that Rong-Chi, being used to a life of luxury, is quite finicky about everything. When autumn arrived, I took Ching-Ching and Lai-Fu out for hot pot. But Rong-Chi couldn't handle the spiciness, so the perfectly good spicy hot pot turned into a split pot. I quietly wrapped a large chunk of chili in a slice of meat and placed it in Rong-Chi's bowl. You're weak, eat more. He smiled and also picked up a piece of tofu for me. I took a bite without suspicion, only to realize it was half-cooked brain. Rong-Chi, you scoundrel. He raised an eyebrow and said with a smile, You flatter me, you flatter me. When winter arrived, a light snow fell, and the weather turned cold. I brewed milk tea over charcoal fire, and also roasted some longans and small tangerines. Rong-Chi sipped the milk tea, lazily leaning against the soft cushion. At that moment, Lai-Fu rushed in excitedly and said, The horse at home has given birth to a foal. I curiously ran to the stable to look, then asked Lai-Fu suspiciously, Was the horse this big when it was born? Lai-Fu glanced at Rong-Chi. Yes, it was. The foal looked very sturdy. Pure white all over, with bright eyes, a clever horse that seemed to understand human nature. But I remember, our horse is a stallion. At this, Rong-Chi couldn't help but laugh, making Lai-Fu even more embarrassed, his face flushing red. Perhaps the young lady misremembered. Fine then. Although a horse was bought when the courtyard was first set up, it was two-spirited and had a fierce temperament. After several attempts to learn horseback riding, all ended in failure. So I really liked this little horse and was eager to try learning to ride, but then it occurred to me, he's just been born, wouldn't it be a bit cruel to ride him right away? Rong-Chi nodded. The snow is heavy today, I'll teach you another day. So I retreated back to my little courtyard, brewing tea, drinking wine, and reading storybooks. A few days later, the weather finally cleared up, a perfect day for going out to ride horses and enjoy the breeze. Rong-Chi had Lai-Fu prepare the horses, while Ching-Ching made sure to bring some lamb meat and charcoal, planning to have a picnic in the countryside. But as the group cheerfully opened the door, they saw a familiar face. Shen Shuiying, her hair styled in a married woman's bun, stood gracefully at the door, her eyes red-rimmed as she looked at Rong-Chi. I want a divorce from Xie Yunju. So this was the world after the grand finale. Xie Yunju had always held a grudge, resenting Shen Shuiying for the embarrassment she caused on their wedding day. Shen Shuiying had not conceived a child for several months, so Xie Yunju took a maid as his concubine. Later, due to official social engagements, he also accepted courtesans and concubines gifted by others. Seeing the lively scene in the rear courtyard, Shen Shuiying threw a huge tantrum, but instead of comforting her, Xie Yunju scolded her for being unreasonable. Do you know how difficult it is for me to serve as the chief minister of the Court of Judicial Review? There are endless cases to handle, each one caused by the influential branches of noble families. Which of them can I afford to offend? If you can't help me, then forget it, but you're always so jealous and petty. Shen Shuiying retorted defiantly. Back when Yunqi was the Chief Justice of the Dali Temple, he never took in any woman from any family.
Rong-Chi, I've been so miserable. How can you bear to see me like this? You jest, Madame Xie. What does your well-being have to do with me? Rong-Chi slowly rose to his feet, looking down at her from above. At that moment, he seemed like an outsider, completely detached from the situation. His eyes devoid of any trace of affection, only clear and visible disdain and indifference. Shen Shuiying had brought humiliation upon herself, her face ashen. She staggered back, escorted away by Lai-Fu, and I had too much to drink. Returning to my room, shouting for Ching-Ching to fetch the courtesan from the Chu house, I wanted to listen to music. Before long, my bed curtain was lifted, and the person before me had an ethereal beauty that left me utterly captivated. So this is how you usually enjoy life, is it? speak. A finger slowly wanders across my lips. I feel the blood rushing to my head, my thoughts in disarray, and in my dazed state, my mind is filled with nothing but immoral scenes. Even the memory of Rong-Chi lying helpless on my old wooden bed, far more pleasing to the eye than the detestable person he is now. I really want someone to bully me hard. Looking for a gigolo. Madam, how do you know I'm not up for it? Wouldn't it be better to try me? The tone was nasty and flippant, with an indescribable allure. But I was so frightened that my eyes instantly widened. He's not a minor official, it's Rong-Chi. I instantly jumped off the bed, tightened my clothes, and stammered, I can't. Rong-Chi sat on the edge of the bed, looking at me with a faint, ambiguous smile. My mind was in a daze, and it suddenly occurred to me that it had been 3 years since I transmigrated into this book. 3 years without a phone. What a miserable life I've been living. I couldn't hold back the urge to cry. I want to play on my phone. Woo-woo. It's been so long since I last played a game. It's all because I don't have a phone to play with that I've started thinking about playing with men. Or maybe it's spring, this damn weather. Rong-Chi looked both amused and exasperated as he stepped forward to support me. I pushed him away. Don't come near me. Although you do have some good looks, I don't want to get married, and I don't want to have children. Woo-woo. The medical care here isn't advanced. What if I die and don't get a chance to restart? Can't we just be sworn siblings? Alright. In the last second before losing consciousness, I thought I saw Rong-Chi's doting smile. An illusion. Later, Rong-Chi's friend, the prince who pretended to be an innkeeper, came to my place every day to hang out with him. He said that during Xie Yunzhou's tenure, he was too soft-hearted and didn't want to offend anyone, yet ended up offending everyone. He accepted many bribes but failed to resolve a single case properly. The emperor was furious and transferred him to a remote, desolate border town, where he became a minor official in charge of household registration. Shen Shuiying insisted on divorcing him, but the Xie family refused to let her go, saying she had even relied on another man to gather her dowry. So how could she have the nerve to ask for a divorce? In the end, the entire Xie family left the capital in a noisy, chaotic uproar. An outcome that left people sighing with regret. The prince said the emperor is no longer angry, and the punishment of Rong-Chi back then was only because he was furious that Rong-Chi had jeopardized his future for a woman. Now he has been entrusted with important responsibilities again and reinstated to his former position. Although Rong-Chi has regained his mansion and is thriving, he remains as he always was, coming to stay in my small, dim side room every night, mooching food and drinks. Utterly shameless. I was so angry that I drove him away, and he grinned mischievously. Why are you mad? I remember you said there's no conflict that can't be resolved by sleeping on it. Want to give it a try? No. How is this bastard getting worse and worse? I meant between husband and wife, not between brothers. Though I covet Rong-Chi's beauty, I truly dare not make a move. But if I don't drive him away, who would dare to invite the young officials to sing tunes? I feel like my retirement life has lost so much enjoyment for no reason. How infuriating. Until Rong-Chi tossed his salary to me, a heavy bag. You take care of it, or I'll just spend it all again. I feel a bit awkward calling him brother now. He often brings over some novel trinkets, and once even brought 2 little goslings for me to raise. Those fluffy, warm little creatures were so full of life. Just looking at them made me happy, on fine days. Rong-Chi would take me horseback riding through the countryside, with the breeze rustling the willow branches. He turned back to ask me, how do you like days like these? I smiled and said, they're good, just the kind of days I like. A smile touched the corners of his eyes and brows. Then I'll protect you for a lifetime, no children, and you're free to stay or leave as you wish. How about that? I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Seems okay, I guess.